All right. So I just want to start off by thanking everyone for joining this call this evening. So I am thrilled that you are taking the time to grow your business in an impactful way. So if you are new to my calls, my business is Your Productive Biz. That's where you are right now. And I am a productivity business coach. And what I do is I work both one-on-one and with group coaching. To work with entrepreneurs that really want to stop procrastinating and want to gain control over the use of their time. And of course, they want to accomplish their projects and goals. And oftentimes when we're not accomplishing our projects and we're not accomplishing the goals that we want, a lot of times it's coming down to some level of time management. And so I'm here to help business owners kind of get over that hump and to discover what aspects of time management that they may be struggling with, how we can then strategize around that and find the solutions that are going to work and fit within their work environment and their habits. So I would definitely love if you follow me. My website is yourproductivebiz.com, and I am on Facebook and Twitter and also on YouTube, where this call will be up and available for replay. So we know that when you are managing your time and your actions, that you are definitely more capable of kicking butts and taking names. So that's really where we want to get you. And these calls are more advanced calls. I consider them more advanced calls. I don't really want to get into like a one-on-one level. I want to get into some real solid tactics and strategies and discussion around why we face some of the issues that we face and how we can begin to overcome those as business owners. And so I actually get these topics directly from issues that entrepreneurs are experiencing. They come from you, the entrepreneur. So I encourage you, if there is a topic that you would like for me to tackle and talk about, if you would email me or inbox me some way, I will work that into my schedule and make sure that we address the topics that are most important to you. So I always recommend people taking some notes. If you are driving, please don't take notes because, again, this will be available for replay. So tonight's call is the fraudulent multitasker, and I have subtitled this, "We Have Been Duped." So I am going to jump right into tonight's training. How many of you consider yourselves to be an excellent multitasker? So almost every CEO or upper level manager or entrepreneur that I know feels like they can effectively multitask. But the science is proving us wrong. I am guilty of this. We have been duped. So I'm going to start with examining what multitasking actually is. So if you think about this, multitasking says that you are able to do multiple tasks at the same time or simultaneously. So you can check email while you're on a conference call and update your social media, all while you're monitoring an auction on eBay, right? Wrong. Okay, so here's what we're actually doing. We are actually switching back and forth at a rapid pace between tasks. So we're definitely not doing tasks at the same time. We are not simultaneously accomplishing anything. Which is why it's easy to get lost in the conference call while you're reading the email, right? So you're trying to do both. You're going to get lost on one or the other. And you clearly can't type that email while you're typing in your social media post at the same time. You can either type one or you can type the other. And it's likely that while you're answering someone's question on a call, that eBay auction you were watching probably jumped up a few bids without you even noticing. So this is because, I'm sorry, not this is because, but because you have all these screens that are opened up on your laptop and because you have all these papers on your desk and you have all of this stuff that's laid out, it doesn't actually mean that you're accomplishing or taking care of these things simultaneously. So there's a gentleman named Earl Miller, and he's a neuroscientist from MIT. So I'm going to assume that he's pretty smart. And what he says is that people can't multitask very well. And when people say they can, they're deluding themselves. So I just want to point out that I'm guilty of this. For years, I have myself as being this excellent multitasker. I can do it all. I can do all of these things at the same time. And what he also wants us to note is that the brain is very good at deluding itself. And I would agree because, because I consider myself to be a fairly intelligent person who really truly believes that I have the power to do things simultaneously, right? And so, for the most part, we simply cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. Now, what we can do is we can shift our focus from one thing to the next with an astonishing speed. We can go very quickly between two tasks, which is how you can switch from typing in an email to then typing in a social media post. But you cannot type them in at the same time, right? So, switching from task to task, you think you're actually paying attention to everything. However, you're not. So that's just the reality of it. Now, you're not paying attention to one or two things simultaneously, you're just switching between them rapidly. So let's dig a little bit deeper in that. So kind of going back to that example I mentioned, if you are on a conference call and trying to reply to an email, what is actually happening? So have you found that you will lose track of the conversation while you're typing? Or maybe you find yourself stumbling on words or taking like a really extra long pause while you're typing. And this is because the brain has to switch amongst the tasks. And there are several reasons for this, but one is that similar tasks are using the same part of the brain. So if you think about this, when you are writing an email and you're talking on the phone at the same time, both of those tasks are practically impossible to do because both of those tasks are using the communication portion of your brain that's involving speech or written word. And so it's really difficult or pretty much impossible for you to actually focus and do both of them at the same time. And that's because there's going to be interference between the two tasks, both trying to take up space in your brain for the same section of your brain that's causing you to try and use your speech or your written word for two separate things. It's going to cause a lot of conflict between those two tasks. So that's why you'll find yourself either losing track of the conversation, taking a long pause, or stopping in your while you're typing. So if you think about this, your brain isn't processing multiple tasks at the same time. It's, like I said, switching between the tasks very rapidly. So I want to ingrain that in us so that one, we can move past the idea that we are multitasking, but instead we're really task shifting, if you think about that. So this is controlled by what's called the executive part of our brains. And what this means is that we have some level of control over what we decide to do. So we can decide what we are going to focus in on. So let's say that you want to listen to some music. You might be in your groove and you are deciding to be in that music, and you are going to be surrounded by that jazz or those blues or that R&B. Maybe for some of you it's rap. I don't know. But you're going to be in that space. And so you are blocking out, you are making the decision to block out the background noise. And let's just say that background noise is your children. So you are in your space and you can hear your children, but you can't really hear them, right? Unless something alarming happens, like they scream or you hear some loud bang or disturbance that then interferes with what you have decided your focus is on. And that's because both of those things taking place are using your auditory senses. So you have to make a decision at that time about where your auditory senses are going to be focused in on. And if you're trying to focus in on both of them, you're either going to catch bits and pieces of the conversation that your children are having, or you're going to catch bits and pieces of the song. You're not going to be able to focus in very closely on both. This is what makes us human. We have a great deal of control over what we choose to focus on. So I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about, in addition to the fact that you aren't actually multitasking, but instead you are rapidly switching tasks, let's also talk about the efficiency or lack thereof of trying to multitask. Now, how many times have you ever felt that you were in your groove? Like I said, you were on that roll. You are knocking some things out, you are moving through those emails, or you are writing that paper, you are getting that blog post done. And I'm kind of speaking to a service-based business because that's what I do. But maybe you're in construction and that drywall is just coming up, or that painting is happening, right? So you are in your groove, you are knocking things out. Switching back and forth between tasks it will actually take you longer to complete than to do a task solely on your own. So if you are trying to write a blog post and do your social media at the same time, it is going to take you longer than if you wrote your blog and then did your social media, or vice versa. So part of this is because that difference of you not ever really getting into your groove. You're never fully into your groove. Your attention is now divided. So that means that the power behind each task is also divided. And especially if the projects or the tasks are really complex. So there's now data that shows that task switching can actually cost you up to 40% in lost productivity. So what that really means is that task switching, right? Not multitasking, task switching really equates to lost time. You are losing time, you are losing productivity. And more importantly, it can also cause you in errors. And so if you are dedicated to providing this excellent product and excellent service for your clients, you are most likely stressing yourself out with lower quality work than what you're capable of. And so that means that you have probably noticed in your own work, you've probably noticed mistakes or things that you could have done better. Even if up front your client didn't see it, you probably saw something in there, and it may have caused you to be embarrassed or stressed out about how you were being presented to your clients, or if you were able to get those referrals, or even if your client doesn't mention it to you, your client may have noticed, and that may be why you don't have a repeat client. Now, I talk about that a little bit in a call that I did, or a workshop that we did on customer service, because oftentimes when our clients are not satisfied with our work, they don't say anything. You'd be surprised at the amount of people who actually do not come back and complain. They just don't come back. So if you're finding that you have a lot of turnover in your clientele, it may be that you have a lower quality of work than what you're capable of, because you are creating errors by the stress of switching back and forth between your work. So in particular, if you're juggling more than two tasks, our brain is able to kind of shift between two tasks, but once you add that third task in there, your workmanship takes a dive and errors are much more likely to occur. So switching tasks rapidly in that manner also affects your memory, in particular, your short-term memory. So I want you to think about this. Have you ever told someone that you'll take care of something while you were in the middle of typing an email or responding to a text, and then forgot it almost as soon as you said it? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And you're finishing up what you're doing, and then you keep moving on with your day. You completely forgot about it. Just that quick, just as soon as you said it, right? So if you are trying to read and listen to music at the same time, what you will notice is that you are going to miss either details in the book, or you will miss which song just played next, or both. And that's because it's not necessarily that you didn't read the words or that you didn't hear the music. It's that when you are trying to do both of them at the same time, you're going to forget pieces of one of them or of both of them. So switching these tasks in this manner also affects your memory. And the last point with regards to efficiency that I'm going to make is that task switching can also decrease your ability to be creative. So what I want you to remember here is that you only have so much space, you only have so much capacity. so much memory and so much storage at any given time. And that capacity is also diminishing as the day wears on. And so, not everyone is most productive in the daytime or first thing in the morning, but the vast majority of us are most productive in the morning. Um, and so what that means is that by that, you know, we call it that 2:30 lull. I think that's what 5 Hour Energy kind of built their whole campaign on is, you have that 2:30 feeling where you're down, right? And you're tired. And so part of that is because our capacity and our energy levels are diminishing as the day wears on. So one, you only have so much space, and two, your capacity is diminishing as we continue to move on. So this gives you less space to be creative and to think outside of the box. And it gives you less space and ability to solve complex problems or think of innovative solutions. And so the fact of the matter is that this really poor habit of we're trying to multitask, but really task switching is not only addicting, but it's damaging to our quality of work. It's damaging to our brains. So before I move on to solutions, I also want to talk about a slightly more serious issue than just the issues that it causes within our work. Now, this issue is still being studied, so I want to address it, but I don't want to put a whole lot of weight on it because I guess the cause and effect isn't quite clear. So, what's currently being studied is that the effects of task switching on our health and the idea that we need to multitask or that multitasking is good for us is something that our culture has placed on us. This has come from a greater demand that our culture has placed on us. Part of this is that people don't feel like they can really unplug, right? Like I've literally had clients who expect a return email at 11 p.m. at night, as though I'm not entitled to have dedicated or focused time with my children or to myself or even to get adequate rest. And this doesn't just happen in entrepreneurship. This happens in the workplace, right? And so we feed into this. Online, you can see if people are up, you can see if they're active, you can see if they're on Facebook or Skype. And so we send a ton of emails or text messages, and we feel obligated to respond to them quickly. We don't unplug from our phones. A lot of times, if you work, you will get your work emails, you will get your business emails onto your phone. So that means that they're coming into you pretty much everywhere that you are. Most of us even sleep next to our phones, or we check them as soon as we wake up, or even if we wake up in the middle of the night. I am guilty of this. I cannot lie. I will check my phone. If I don't put my phone away, like physically out of arm reach, I will check it, right? So I'm a chronic phone checker myself. So I understand. But this causes us to feel like we have to do more and more. And it causes our clients to feel that we need to do more and more. So we have kind of started to live in this like 24/7, 365 world. Like small business owners are actually trying to keep up with the production of large businesses who can hire personnel to run the business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when we don't get that type of 24/7 treatment, we are oftentimes quick to say that an organization isn't deserving of our business. And so this perception also puts additional pressure on us to provide that level of service that we believe everybody wants and needs. That's a whole lot, right? And so it's a whole lot to say, and it's definitely a whole lot to do. And so then in comes the idea that we need to multitask. Our solution is, I know, I'll do several things at once. I'll keep pace with the competition. And so to keep pace with our own goals and our own dreams and our own lifestyle that is oftentimes sold to us through media and propaganda and all of that, which I won't go into any of that here on this call, but I want to shift back to the health aspect of this. For us to keep pace with all of this, we are trying to do multiple things at once. So now, not only do we definitively that when we multitask, we're working with a lower cognitive level and with an increased amount of stress, which Stress in and of itself comes with its own set of health issues. There are now studies that are showing that when you multitask, you may be experiencing less brain density in the part of your brain that controls emotion. And it can also decrease your IQ. And so, the reason why I said that these studies are not complete yet is because what they can't find is that this decreased density is actually the cause of you multitasking, or if multitasking is the cause of the decrease in density. But what they do know is that chronic multitaskers do show a decrease in brain density and a decrease in IQ. So, um, it's like it's dumbing down your ability to work, right? When we think that it's helping us work better, it's really bringing our level of work down significantly. So, I have said a mouthful, and I've probably said it at a really rapid pace. So at this point, I'm sure that you've thought through some of your work habits and your actions, and you might not even be fully on board. You might think this can't be true. I'm great at multitasking. And I'm sure you probably believe that. I mentioned early on that our brains are really good at tricking us, right? And so if this is you, in reality, what is happening is that you are creating what's called a feedback loop. And you are most likely experiencing the gratification, and you're addicted to completing small tasks. So it does feel like you're getting more done, but the most successful people practice the habit of focus. And so before we move on into our solutions, I'll follow up with what Steve Jobs says, which is that people think focus means saying yes to the thing that you've got to focus on, but that's not what it means at all. Steve Jobs then goes on to say it actually means saying no to the hundreds of other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. And so ultimately what he's saying is being focused on your goals isn't about saying yes to what you want to focus on. It's about saying no to all the hundreds of distractions that are going to come your way. Okay? But the work that you have to put in is to leave this nasty habit behind. So how do we get into this deep work? And it is deep because for a significant amount of us who have ingrained multitasking into our being and into our daily routines and habits, getting to a place where we are single task minded is going to be tough. So I'm going to start shifting our focus on what we need to do about it so that this year we can really be intentional about accomplishing the big goals that we've set forth and in place, that in the places that we want to take our businesses. So how do we accomplish this? First, let's look at what works. Producing high quality work takes focus. So I'm going to say that one more time. Producing high quality work takes focus. And the more you are focused on one single task, the faster it gets done. So at this point, if you are a chronic multitasker or task switcher, you will need to build a new habit of doing only one thing at a time. So this is going to require training, redirecting, and refocusing. So I'm going to cover 4 strategies that are going to help you learn the art and practice of single tasking. Now, number 1, you must acknowledge your distractions and you need to cut them off. So this means that you need to put electronics in another room. You may need to put electronics on do not disturb. You need to turn off notifications. That means turning off notifications on your laptop for your email. This may even mean completely working from a clear space with only your current project at hand. You may have to clear your desk or move to a table or a location or a space that has nothing else on it except for what you need to accomplish the task at hand. So I know this will be difficult at first, but like any other habit over time, of course, it will prove to be one of the best ways that you can increase your productivity. Now, number 2, do not rely on your memory. So you need to have a way to record your goals, your important tasks, your notes, and keeping track of what you may need to work on a project or a task in the same space is probably going to be one of the most helpful things you can do. So what I mean is, let's say if you have a task, you want to jot down whatever tools, resources, notes, etc. that you will need to complete that task. And that way, when you sit down to focus on that task at hand, then you can do so without having to get up or go find something that you forgot. And so sometimes as you're writing down a task in your to-do list, you also want to accompany that task with whatever tools or resources, etc., that you are going to need to complete that task. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to rely on your memory. So write down what you need to complete it. Number 3, you want to prioritize your tasks, preferably the night before. And so I talk about this in a blog post that I talk about my that I discuss nighttime routines and how important they are to your productivity the next day. But preferably do this at night. If you can't do it at night or you haven't built that habit yet, my suggestion is first thing in the morning before you start on anything in your day to prioritize your tasks for the day. So to do this, you have to have clearly defined goals and know what you need to do, what you need to delegate, what you need to delete off your list, or what you need to defer so that you can reach your goals. Now, what I find is that this is probably one of the trickiest places for entrepreneurs because often small business owners don't have clearly defined goals. This one is still tough for me because that's one of the first things that I do to set my year, but I do find that more and more entrepreneurs that I speak to don't have their goals clearly defined. So I have now accepted that that not everyone does the same thing that I do and have those clearly defined goals. But what happens when you don't have clearly defined goals is that you are going to wake up each day kind of ambiguous to what you need to do for that day to reach a goal that you're not really particularly clear about. Or maybe you don't have any why or purpose behind your goal. And so without that purpose, you're not really sure why you're doing what you're doing. And then this makes you very susceptible to distractions, or it makes you susceptible to the needs of other people who will definitely use up your time. And so this is when you find family members or other people in the community or children or spouses or whoever who will take up that time because you haven't focused in your time to say, this is what's important and this is where I need to spend my time. You haven't set those boundaries. And when your goals aren't clear or you don't have a purpose, it makes it more difficult to set those boundaries because you don't quite really know why you're setting them. So prioritizing your task is number 3. Now, number 4 is to take breaks. So it is okay to complete a task, especially a complex task or a mentally exhausting task, and then take a break. The key to breaking is to actually take a break. Take a walk, go get a drink, move away from your desk or your workspace. Give your brain a break so that you can adequately get into your next zone and tackle the next task. Now, my recommendation here, especially if you're just getting started on this, is to work on a task for 20 to 25 minutes. If you are a chronic multitasker, if you are constantly caught up in distractions of email and social media and text and phone calls and people interrupting, getting through a solid, undisrupted 25 minutes is a long time, I guarantee you. And when you finish with that 25 minutes, reward yourself with a break. Take a break. And if your task isn't completely finished, come back and then set another timer for another 20 to 25 minutes so that you can solely work on that task. Challenge yourself to not be distracted for a full 25 minutes. If you have never done this, I challenge you. It's tougher than it sounds. 25 minutes doesn't sound like a long time. 25 minutes undistracted is a long time. But undistracted, you will get a lot of work done. So I challenge you. Challenge yourself to take that undistracted 25 minutes. Okay, so I want to repeat. 1, clear your distractions. 2, do not rely on your memory. Write it down. 3, you want to prioritize. And 4, you want to take breaks. So before I close, I want to address some things that pop up, such as children, because I have some. So I know what that's like. We have to know that not every situation is going to be optimal, right? So when you have small children like I do, or you have elderly parents or other people who may take up your time or your attention, looking for solutions to keep them occupied for short bouts of time, say that 20 to 25 minutes that I mentioned, or finding blocks of time where you can get someone to help you so that you have that moment to get into your zone for a few hours in a day can be really beneficial. So this may take some pre-planning, this may take working some things out with someone, but in reality, if we are able to really get into a work zone, you can find that your work day can be much shorter than the 8, 10, 12, 14-hour days that we are accustomed to working. Truly, truly productive people are often able to work in 3 to 5 hours of dedicated focused time in a day. Yes, I said 3. There are many, many, many very focused and successful people who are able to block out 3, 4, 5 hours of their day of very focused time and knock out everything that's taking you 14 hours to accomplish in a day. So you can get there. And as we close, single tasking may seem counterproductive at first, but once you really begin to clear your distractions and you gain true clarity and focus around your goals and what you must do today to accomplish them, you will be amazed at the speed, efficiency, and quality in which you get them done. So I want to thank you for joining tonight's call. I am getting ready to open up the call for any questions or any comments. Next month's call is going to be on May 16th. So I would absolutely love if you would put that in your calendar ahead of time, May 16th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you found this call helpful, please do tell another business owner. Now, if you would like to meet with me, I am currently accepting new clients. I know that addressing time management issues can be more than daunting, but I also know firsthand from the frustration that comes with being pulled in so many directions and having too much on your plate and not living up to the level of success that you know you are capable of. And so, in working with me, we will dig into the root of what's causing you to not reach your goals, and we will overcome those obstacles with some strategies that are targeted towards how you work most effectively. So, if you would like to work with me, you can go to my website, which is yourproductivebiz.com, and straight from my website, you can schedule a discovery session with me. Again, I would love if you would connect with me. The replay will be available on my YouTube channel, so I would love if you would subscribe. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. I hope that tonight's call was helpful. I feel like there was a lot of information that was in there, but I really wanted to provide some background on this myth and the idea that we can multitask. And so I hope that the 4 steps that we went through can really help you move into the idea of single tasking so that you can really see an increase in your productivity. So I appreciate everyone for joining tonight's call. Again, the next call is May 16th, and I appreciate you. Thank you, and have a good night.